everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is going to be a look at an 80-year-old case, the Sodder family fire and mystery that took place in West Virginia. And there's a ton of YouTube videos on it because it's one of these that, like, lots of conspiracy theories and lots of theories about this happened and that happened and what happened to the kids, and people are fascinated by it. And I was asked quite a few times to do this one, and I finally decided, yes, I will. And I have found it really, really interesting. So this is what we're going to do today. And I want to welcome everybody who is in the chat room. Jill just rolled in and Tassel's just rolled in. And as Kara says, this one is a strange one. It is, but it may not be as strange as you think, only because we're talking about something that happened 80 years ago. And what behind me, you see a newspaper report here and this picture of a house, which you'll see this picture all over the place as their house. And I don't know that it even is their house. I couldn't find any verification that it was. I think Grok told me that, oh, well, I think Smithsonian Magazine uses this. I'm like, yeah, okay. Doesn't make it legit. And there's reasons to believe it might not be their house, but a house of the time that might have been in West Virginia. So we're going to get a lot of unreliable narrating, unreliable narrators from the press, from YouTube, and very interesting to me. So I'm going to be going over this. Let me point this one out. So, okay, this is one a lot of people saw because Nexpo apparently has like 2 million. There's like 2 million views on this. And do I think it's good? No. Do I think it's, amusing? Sure. And there's a whole bunch of them like that, but nothing that I thought was terribly good as far as analysis or anything. And then there was this show, the Sodder children's story told by a family member. Well, not a family, because the family's been dead for a really long time. This is a descendant of the Sodder family. And she's put a lot of effort into learning the history and gathering up papers and all this stuff. And it's a 3-hour show, this is the group. It's called Creepalachia, I guess. Creepalachia, like Appalachia, West Virginia being part of Appalachia, and in the United States. So it says Creepalachia, so weird stories out of Appalachia. So they are interviewing her, and it's over 3 hours. It's a slog. That's all I can say. It's a slog. It's really, really long. And then she gives her profile of the case. She's been studying it, and she's giving her profile. She's not a criminologist or anything. She's a descendant. And I'm going to go into her analysis and show you why sometimes people shouldn't do that. Anyway, so that's some of the stuff I used. But it's all unreliable narrators. So when I say anything, I'm going to say what we don't actually know what the truth is there at all. Because I see in varying stories about things, people saying, oh, this is what happened. And they say, no, that didn't happen. So it's like, but I am going to talk about the fire and the missing children. 5 children went missing with the fire. Their bodies were never found in the fire. Their bones, for the most part, or skulls, were never found in the fire. So many people believe they were never in the fire, that they were abducted prior to the fire, and the fire was set to cover up an abduction or whatever the reason the fire was set for. However, that is not necessarily, that's where the belief has come down over the years. And the family, the parents especially, they want to believe those 5 children didn't die in the fire. So what we'll see is they put out a tremendous amount of find these kids, find these 5 missing children. Are they still alive? Are they out there? Missing persons. They're offering a lot of money, and they really fought to find out what happened to the kids, hiring private investigators, and spent their whole lives doing that, died not knowing the answer. So that's why it's still a mystery. So I'm going to get into all of that. So if you, by the way, hello, everybody who's in the chat room, and Allison just rolled in. And Liz says, I watched the one called Sodder Family Case Study. Wasn't too bad. Well, Liz, I don't know that I saw that one. Actually, I didn't. I'm an unreliable narrator. I don't know. I'm telling you the truth. But you're going to have to let me know what they think in comparison to what I think. I'll be curious about that, what their conclusions were about what happened to the children, how the fire started, and what happened to the children. Those are the two issues that we're going to get into. But as I was about to say, if you would like to be in the chat room with these lovely people, please do go to the link below, Patreon, and join Patreon. It's $5 a month, and you can come to 8 lives, a case show on the weekend, and a hangout during the week, and be part of the community. And it helps this educational channel. However, if you don't have $5 left in your life, which a lot of people don't these days, I would appreciate you subscribing to the channel. That costs nothing. Click the bell for notifications and check my playlist. All of my videos, once the live is over, the next week, all of them, I make them public. So there's nothing hidden. So you don't have to pay anything to see anything. But if you would like to support the channel and be part of the community and be at the lives, then that's the place for it. All right. Now, let's get to it. All right. So, who just rolled in? Oh, Joanne just rolled in. Hello to you, Joanne. Please hit the like button. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Clarissa. All right. Now, as I said, everything is pretty crappily written about this case. And so I'm going to use Wikipedia, which is probably one of the worst Wikipedia articles I've ever seen. And I'm going to have to correct some of things on it. But at least it's an outline. So, sorry, everybody. I'm still getting over whatever I had last week. All right. They start out in the Wikipedia article saying, on Christmas Eve, December 24th, 1945, a fire destroyed the Sodder residence in Fayetteville, West Virginia. Okay, first of all, the fire didn't happen on New Year's Eve. That's the first thing they got wrong, which is pretty pitiful. And really, that's kind of really pitiful. Because you'll see in this article here, 5 children, oh no, it's not in that article there. 5 children die. I thought I had the one that said it was, maybe it's here. Yeah. The tragedy which caused the deaths of 5 members in a family of 11 occurred on Christmas Day, 1945. Fayetteville officials described it as one of the worst fires in this town's history. Okay. And you're saying the children lost in the fire. They believe, the officials of town say that these children died in the fire. A lot of people don't believe that because they never found the bones of the children. Okay. Now, so it didn't happen on Christmas Eve. It happened on Christmas Day. Now, it did happen like at 1 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day. So, you're barely into Christmas Day. But to me, it was kind of important because it tells you essentially what the family might have been doing, depending on whether it's Christmas Eve or Christmas Day when there's an actual fire. And so the events sort of began on Christmas Eve. That's when the family was preparing for their Christmas Day. That's when the children are in the house and everybody's getting ready to go to sleep. Santa Claus is coming. They are Catholic, so I'm assuming they were celebrating Christmas. So I don't know what their traditions were, and I wish I did, because traditions mean a lot when it comes to understanding people's behaviors and movements right prior to something like this. But the information is so pitiful on the family, and anything about them really, or what happened on that night is, again, it's a very questionable half the stuff that's said. One place it says this is what happened, another place it said that's what happened. So I'm just going to give you the generalities of what I think makes sense so that you can have a good idea for when I then analyze what happened to the children and how did the fire begin. Was it an accidental fire, which was ruled, by the way, originally? Investigation by police and representative of the state fire marshal's office revealed that a fire probably started from a short circuit in the wiring in the rear of the house. That's the way they went. The official said there was a electrical fire that burned the house down, and these 5 children perished in the fire. That's the official bit. But a lot of people think the officials were just incompetent. Very possible. It's a very tiny town. The fire started at 1 o'clock. It pretty much burnt to the ground and then smoldered there for hours before the fire department arrived at 8 o'clock in the morning. So the incompetence level was probably pretty high, and the fire chief couldn't drive the fire truck. So, yeah, I'm going to say the official reports may be a little questionable too. So Christmas Eve is where everybody was getting ready for Christmas Day. And the actual fire was in the wee hours of Christmas Day. So I'll get you, just want to straighten that out. At the time, the house, which may not be this house. Here's another picture of the Sodder family home. Yeah, it's all over Google. It's everywhere, but I don't know that that's their home, because the descendant in the talk show gives a layout of the house which doesn't that doesn't even match. She's got room layout, which I don't know if that's true either, but it certainly does not match this house right here. So anyway, I don't know if that's the house, but we'll call it that house. It was occupied by George Sodder, which that is true. So where's George? I got a picture of George. Where'd you go, George? Yeah, this is George, in his better days, and then his wife, and there she is holding her first child, and that's their first of 9 children. So she was a little older when the fire happened, but not necessarily much. In the days when you had kids like boom, boom, boom. And so at the time, it was occupied by George Sodder and his wife, Jennie, and 9 of their 10 children. It's not exactly true. At the time of the fire, it was actually occupied by 8 of the children and the parents, because one of the children was away in the military. And I'll get to that in a minute. During the fire, George, Jennie, and 4 of the 9 children escaped. This is true. I can tell you that the part that's supposed to be accurate is that the mom and dad had, I'll show you the picture of the layout. The part on the left is supposed to be the first floor, and the part on the right is supposed to be the 2 rooms that are on the second floor. That's the claim, and I just don't know if it's true. But from the different statements we have in the newspapers and so forth, and so many, and certain places, up there on the left corner there, up there, you'll see it says, I think it says their bedroom. So it's mom and dad's bedroom, was supposedly on the first floor, and they slept there with I think the youngest daughter. I think she might have been 4, so she was there. So those 3 were together in that room, and over in the living room was the oldest daughter, and supposedly claim is she likes sleeping on the couch. I know how often she slept on the couch. I have no clue. There is supposedly on the second floor a boys' room and a girls' room, and there will be 3 girls in the girls' room if the big sister wasn't there. If the big sister were there, then there'll be 4 girls in the girls' room. In the boys' room, there's supposed to be 5 boys. And so the 5 plus 4 would be 9. So 5 boys. Wait a minute. Sorry. 2, 3, 4 boys. The 1 boy is out. The one was in the army. So in that room at this point in time, you would have theoretically 4 boys in the boys' room, 4 girls in the girls' room. Got that? 4 boys in the boys' room, 4 girls in the girls' room on the second floor. However, the oldest girl, wait a minute, I've got that wrong now. Wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm losing track here. Hold on a second. Now I'm losing total track. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, help. Wait a minute. 1, 2. See, now I've lost my damn mind. Hold on one second. It's hard to keep track of all the kids. Okay, let me look at the kids that went missing. Okay, the kids that went missing. You got these 5. All right. So here we have 2 boys that went missing and 3 girls that went missing. So in the house, yes, you have the 3 girls in the bedroom and the 2 downstairs, the older girl, the older teen girl, and the little girl. So those would be 5 girls. The 2 oldest and the youngest got out of the house, leaving the 3 that were in the girls' room. They died. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1. I can't get the numbers straight here. What's not right about the numbers here? Sorry, I'm trying to figure it out. How many kids do they have? I'm losing track. Hold on one more second. 4 of the 9 children escaped. Okay, so they had 10 kids. I'm just trying to get it straight here. So they had 10 children, but 1 was out. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. 1 was away, so there's 9 children in the house. And the little one said, roll over, roll over. So they all rolled over and 1 fell out. Oh, no, it wasn't that. Anyway, there were 9 kids in the house. 1 was away. So in the house, there were 5 girls and 4 boys. There we go. 5 girls and 4 boys. Let's go back to the picture. This is really important. That's why I'm going through this. 5 girls and 4 boys. 3 of the girls were upstairs in the girls' room, and 2 were downstairs. 1 with the parents, and they're sleeping with them, and the teenage girl sleeping in the living room, supposedly on the couch. That's 5. Then there were supposed to be 4 boys in the boys' room, but only 2 boys died in the fire. The other 2 boys did not die in the fire, and I'm going to get into where the heck were they during the fire? Where did they sleep? Because everybody on the second floor supposedly died in the fire. The 2 boys that didn't die in the fire, there's weird stories whether they were they upstairs in that room and got out of the room but left the brothers, or were they sleeping downstairs? There was a claim that they were sleeping downstairs, but I don't know where the heck they're supposed to be sleeping downstairs. I mean, nobody saw them downstairs. You would think they would say they were sleeping in the living room with their sister, but nobody says anything about them sleeping downstairs, except some people guess that. So anyway, sorry about that. 9 kids in the house, one child away. Okay. All right. So during the fire, George, Jennie, and 4 of the children, the 2 that were definitely sleeping downstairs and 2 boys that should have been sleeping upstairs in the boys' room, but we don't know where they were, escaped. The bodies of the other 5 children have never been found. And those were 5 children that were definitely sleeping upstairs on the supposed second floor in the boys' and girls' rooms. There's also the issue of, this picture shows an attic, and I don't know, that's another thing I try to find out, was it a real attic? Or was, some attics you can only crawl into, other attics you can make into bedrooms. They could have another bedroom up there, but there's some stories that have a 3rd floor, and that becomes a whole nother mess, which I can't even get into. So I'm just going to leave that one alone for now. All right. So the bodies of the other 5 children have never been found. That is true. They were suspected of dying in the fire, but the bodies were never found. The surviving Sodder family believed for the rest of their lives that the 5 missing children survived. And this becomes a question of how could they have survived? Well, obviously, if they were there during the actual fire and the fire burned the house to the ground and they didn't get out, and nobody saw them get out, they're either dead in the fire or they were out of the house prior to the fire. Those are the only 2 possibilities. I'm going to just check some of your comments here before I go on to more of the story. Yes, not the eldest. The second eldest was away in the military. The second eldest. The second eldest. So sorry about all the confusion of all the kiddies. Okay, this was an interesting point. Liz says, you think screams will be heard. Screams were not heard, and the faces of children were not seen at windows. So no, there was no screaming. Correct. Okay. You're going, Clarissa, you're saying they might have been out of the house doing chores so they could stay up late. This is one of the possible theories, and I'm going to get into that. 5 kids will be hard to hide. This is also true, Kara. All right. Let me go on now. The Sodders never rebuilt the house. Instead they converted the site into a memorial garden. This is so very sad. This is their memorial garden. This is what the house burnt to the ground. I'm going to get into the house fire as far as what could have caused the fire and how much did it burn and what could have caused, if these kids were actually still in the house, how could they have just vanished? Okay, so in the state converted to a memorial garden. In the 1950s, they came to doubt the children had perished. The family put up a billboard at the site along State Route 16 with pictures of the 5 offering a reward for information that would bring closure to the case. And I showed you some of those pictures on the side of the road. They put all these pictures of missing persons, and they put that in front of their new house. Really sad. I mean, they just definitely, did everything they can to try to find the children, if they were alive. And they believed they were. It remained standing until shortly after Jennie Sodder's death in 1989. So they got a lot of tips, tons of tips, including like this one where, oh my God, the guy on the right is really the boy on the left. There's never any proof of that, but somebody thought they looked the same, and might be that he might be him grown up. Looks kind of like him, it's pretty good. I don't know. So that was whatever. But in support of their belief that children had survived, they pointed to a number of unusual circumstances before and during the fire. George disputed the Fayetteville fire department's finding that the blaze was electrical in origin, noting that he had recently had the house rewired and inspected. Okay, I see his reasoning on that. I mean, he was trying to keep his house in good condition. He had it rewired. But I'll tell you this, there were quite a few house fires in those days. And some of it's, just because somebody rewires your house doesn't mean they did it right. Just pointing that out. George and his wife suspected arson, leading to theories that the children had been taken by the Sicilian mafia, perhaps in retaliation for George's outspoken criticism of the fascist government of his native Italy. So we're talking about after World War II. I just say right here, that's just silly. Okay, that's just plain silly. I mean, he was outspoken. He had his opinions, and he was, and he's more likely that somebody would beat him up in a bar fight. You know what I mean? Somebody might knife him in a bar fight, but that somebody would kill the children over that and burn the house down because they didn't like his opinion. Possible, but certainly not the Sicilian mafia. The Sicilian mafia is like, so some guy opens his trap and says some stuff. It's not like he was building an army or he's going to fight. He wasn't part of an organization. He's just some guy who runs a trucking company in West Virginia, the USA. The Sicilian mafia is just going to go and just roll their eyes. So that is just nonsense. So that the mafia was involved in any way, shape, or form, I don't believe it. Just because he's Italian, it doesn't like Mussolini. So, it's not worth the effort. Let's put it that way. He was born in Sardinia, Italy in 1895. He immigrated to the United States 13 years later with an older brother, and they cleared customs at Ellis Island. And for the rest of his life, he would not talk about why he left his homeland, obviously, because he didn't like what was going on. Okay. So he eventually ends up in West Virginia, where he runs a trucking company that has to do with coal mining. So he hauling dirt to construction sites and later hauling coal mined in the region. So he's involved in that. His wife, Jennie, was a storekeeper's daughter, and she also emigrated from Italy and married George in 1922. They settled outside nearby Fayetteville, which had a large population of Italian immigrants, in a 2-story timber frame house. And timber frame houses, by the way, go up really quickly, when you're burning them down. Or they've been set on fire or just go on fire. They were 2 miles north of town. Now, this is kind of important. 2 miles north of town. And one of the things I would like to know, which I don't know, is how many houses were around their house and how close. I think they were close to a street, but this is really important when you get witness accounts of things they saw happening at the time of the fire, because I'm like, it's Christmas Eve. Pretty much everybody's home. Who could see, what are the chances they saw what started the fire at that moment in time at 1 a.m. on Christmas Day? Out in a fairly rural place. Now, they had some cows and chickens, so we're not talking about they were in a little close together neighborhood. If they had cows and chickens, they had at least some land, right? So let's see. And then they had 1923, they had the first of their 10 children. George's business prospered, and they became, quote, one of the most respected middle-class families around, in the words of one local official, which means nothing whatsoever, except he's talking to the media. However, George had strong opinions on many subjects and was not shy about expressing them, sometimes alienating people, which we all do when we have strong opinions. In particular, his strident opposition to Italian dictator Benito Mussolini led to some strong arguments with other members of the immigrant community. Whatever. All right. The last of the Sodder children, Sylvia, that's the little one, was sleeping with them downstairs, was born in 1942. So she was 3 years old, 3 going on 4. By then, their second oldest son, Joe, who was 17, had left home to serve in the military during World War II. So the first child stayed home. And Oddly enough, the woman who is, I'm going to quote from, I want to read what she said, the descendant, she seemed to have the two of them mixed up, which kind of, I didn't quite understand why. She was basically saying that the guy who was in the army came home and was there and was all that. He was Joe, and Joe was never in the army. Joe was in the army, but the older brother was not. So the second oldest son, Joe, was in the army, but not the oldest son. He was working with his dad, and he was 22/23 years old. So, anyway, on October 1945, a visiting life insurance salesman, after being rebuffed, in other words, George said, "No, I'm not buying your plan," warned George that the house, quote, would probably go up in smoke and your children are going to be destroyed, attributing this all to the dirty remarks he'd been making about Mussolini. He becomes a suspect in the eyes of the family and many people on the internet because he predicted that the house would burn down and the kids would die. Well, if you're selling insurance, you want to sell fire insurance, what are you going to say? That's exactly what you would say. Now, maybe he didn't like this, George's stuff on Mussolini, so he threw that one in there just to be annoying. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he burned the house down. But I want to also point out when you have something happen that's tragic, and you're looking back to, as the family members looking back, everything becomes suspicious too. I mean, and as an investigator, you should look back at things that could be suspicious. So it's nothing wrong with doing that. Police should do that too. But a lot of times, you have to be careful when parents do that, family members, because they'll be suspicious of everything, and they also don't necessarily remember things the way they were. They sometimes can think they remember it that way, especially if that makes the person a better suspect. So you can't always necessarily believe what the family members say either. Sometimes they're telling the absolute truth, and absolutely, but sometimes not so much. So you got to be careful about that. When you say, "Oh, see, this is what happened. This guy said this." We don't even know that guy said that. So another visitor, ostensibly seeking work, took the occasion to go around back and warned George that a pair of fuse boxes would cause a fire one day. Again, he was puzzled because he just had the house rewired. Well, people say stuff. But now he's thinking back, oh my God, maybe there's something to do with the house fire. Okay, and then in the weeks before Christmas that year, George's older sons had also noticed a strange car parked along the main highway through town, its occupants watching the younger Sodder children as they returned from school. Again, what does that really mean? How often did it happen? Did they miss? Now, did it not mean anything then, but now that they're looking back, think, oh yeah, I remember some strange guy there. So that's the problem. You get a lot of this kind of stuff. Now, the actual house fire. Okay, Christmas Eve house fire. Christmas Day house fire. Come on, Wikipedia, fix it. The Sodder family celebrated on Christmas Eve, 1945. Now, this is stated, and I don't know that that's true at all. At all. I don't know. It's said here. I would like to know that because sometimes people do celebrate on Christmas Eve and not on Christmas Day. Or like my family, my grandmother celebrated on Christmas Eve so that we could go to her apartment in New York. And she had this gorgeous German Christmas with all the candles and, marzipan, and it was fantastic, even though she was Jewish. Anyway, so another whole story, which you can find on my channel. So we had this incredible Christmas Eves. And then the reason she did that was, first of all, because it was dark and she loved the beauty of the candles on the tree at night. And also because she knew that families like ours wanted to celebrate Christmas at home so that we could have Christmas Eve and then we wake up in the morning and we'd have Christmas Day. And we followed a lot of that tradition for years. And my daughter's house next door, we have a Christmas Eve part, and then I stay home and they have their private Christmas Day part. So, but I would like to know exactly what they were doing, but we don't. So the Sodder family celebrated Christmas Eve in some way. Marion, 19, that's the girl sleeping on the sofa. The oldest daughter had been working at a dime store in downtown Fayetteville, and she was surprised her three younger sisters, Martha, 12, Jennie, 8, and Betty, 5, with a new toy she had bought for them as gifts. These are three of the girls upstairs. The younger children were so excited they asked their mother if they could stay up past what would have been their usual bedtime. Okay. Now, I don't know what their usual bedtime is. Thank you for not telling us, because we're talking about 12, 8, and 5. Sometimes 12 is different than 5. What is the usual bedtime? And on Christmas Eve, sometimes you try to get the kids earlier to bed because Santa Claus has got to come, to the house. I don't know what their regular time was. So they were asked if they could stay up a little later, which makes sense that mom would say, sure, why not? These are Christmas Eve toys. Sounds to me like they celebrated on Christmas Day, but the sister gave them an early Christmas present. They wanted to stay up and play a little bit with their new toys. Not a problem. Then it says this. At 10 p.m. Now the whole timing thing here is really weird. At 10 p.m., Jennie, the mother, told them they could stay up a little later as long as the two oldest boys who were still awake, 14-year-old Maurice and his 9-year-old brother Louis. Now let's look at their pictures of the kids again. This is the whole group of them. So we have let's see, do I have so we have which order are these in? I guess hold on a second. 14-year-old Maurice is on the left, I think. And then Martha. So 14-year-old, I'm going to put my finger right here. See it? Can you see it? Right there? Okay, 14-year-old Maurice is on the left. And then there will be Martha, the 12-year-old, next. And then there's 9-year-old brother Louis. Oh, Louis is the one in the middle, the one that they think looks like that other guy. Later picture. And then the two other girls are Jennie, who's 8, and Betty, who's 5. So those are the 5 kids that burned up in the fire. Now, the 3 girls you see in that picture, they're the ones that said, we want to stay up and play with these toys. Martha, 12. Okay. And the mother supposedly asked the 2 boys, who are 14 and 9. But this is all very important, so try to hang in here for this part, because this is where I want you to understand how a proper analysis should work, and how profiling, you got to pay attention to things that are important when you're analyzing anything. At 10 p.m., the mother told them they could stay up a little later as long as the 2 oldest boys, Maurice, who's 14, and 9-year-old brother Louis remembered to put the cows in and feed the chickens before going to bed themselves. Now, there's another place where only Maurice had to go out and take care of the cows and the chickens. Now, supposedly this is 10 o'clock. Now, here's an interesting point. I want to see if any of you get this point, because this is a question that came to me. What do you think the problem is, in my opinion, about the 10 o'clock thing, about the kids going out and taking care of the cows and the chickens? Does anybody have a clue? Sarah says, we were told we needed to go to sleep. Our pets wouldn't talk at midnight. Why we fell for that, I'll never know. Thank you, Carrot. Can you feed chickens at night? You can feed chickens at night, but who needs to feed chickens at night? When should you be feeding the chickens? Aren't the animals sleeping? I don't know. Well, Ruse, that's a good question. There you go, Clarissa. You got it. I think they would have already been tended to. This, to me, is something. Something could have happened. Okay. Let's go look at Christmas Eve in general. And I looked all of this stuff up because it was driving me nuts. First of all, I live in a house that has chickens. Okay. My daughter has chickens. We have a chicken coop. We have chickens. Not once have I ever gone out to take care of the chickens at night, nor has she, nor has her daughter. The chickens, you go there during the day. First of all, she has a feeder, which has all the food in it, and she's a feeder for water too. So that basically all that's automatic. But if she goes out of town and she said, Mom, can you take care of the chicken? Be sure everything's okay. Well, I'm paranoid. When somebody gives me a responsibility, I'm pretty paranoid. So I go out there every day and just be sure that the water is in. I don't want animals dehydrating and dying. So I always go out and check that the water's in the bowl. There's actually food that fell and it didn't get stuck, and that the door is closed so they don't get out. I check that. I check that during daylight hours. Why do I do that? Because it's easy to see everything. Now, we also have down in the field a horse, a donkey, 3 llamas and 2 alpacas and a goat. All right. Now, again, when I'm left taking care of them, I feed them, you'll never guess it, in the daylight hours, preferably in the morning, because if you don't feed them in the morning and you drive away, the donkey will stand there and look at you and go, ee-haw, ee-haw, because he wants you to be fed. You're like, oh, dude, I got to go out and get something. I'll be back and feed you. Have I fed them in the afternoon? Yes. Have I ever fed them after dark? No. No. The only time the animals have ever been looked at after dark is if something really was like out of whack or something. Like the expectation was, let's say I wasn't here, my daughter's off at the beach, and she expected to get back during daylight, and she didn't make it back, so she fed them like after dark. Maybe, but certainly she won't care about the chickens. The chickens will take care of themselves. She might give them some food. So, and we're talking about 1945, when the lighting wasn't very good either. So they would, generally speaking, take a lantern out there. Now, it's Christmas Eve. Sorry, I got. It's Christmas Eve. Somebody tell me, where are the children on Christmas Eve? Where are the children on Christmas Eve? Thank you, Tim. Welcome, Tim. I'm 30 minutes behind. That's okay. However, the fascists prosecuted the mafia. The mafia worked with the U.S. against the fascists, so the theory is dumb. There's just no way that meaning is meaningful. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Liz says, since it's winter, did they have anything to do with it? Not feeding them, but something else. Well, it gets dark earlier. So we're talking about Christmas Eve. So we're talking about dark by, that's why I don't like to be here in the winter, 4 or 5 o'clock. Where were the children on Christmas Eve? At home. They're not even in school. You got how many kids? I'm sorry. I've lost count again. 9 kids at home. They're home all day long. What are they doing all day long? They're at home. They're not in school. They're probably not wrapping up a pile of presents. That's what parents do at the midnight. That's what they're trying to get that finished. So Santa Claus's present is under the tree. The kids are home all day long. Why the hell has anybody done anything? Nobody said they weren't home all day long, like they were at a church service the whole day. Nobody said that. Nobody said they went to a church, anything. So the kids are home all day long, and routinely, I'm pretty sure, they go out during the daylight hours, feed the animals, make sure, whatever. Now, is it possible that the cow was still out in the field and the chickens were still running around, which is not a good idea, Pat. Once dusk hits, we've lost a bunch of chickens. Also because the fox and the raccoons managed to get into the chicken coop and wiped out all the chickens. So we've had that issue. So essentially, you want your chickens to be enclosed prior to dusk, unless you want them eaten. Cows might be safer, depending on what's in the area as far as large animals to kill them. But generally speaking, this is your daily thing. You take care of them. You get your animals fed early on. And if they've been let out to run around outside of the coop, then you put them in before dusk. So yeah, the predators come out. I mean, it's okay. And doing their chores. They're home all day long. They can do their stupid chores. And, sorry, the bug. All right. So they could have gone caroling. That would have been nice, but they could have gone take care of the animals and then gone caroling. So anyway, this weird story is that for some reason, now follow me with a weird story. For some reason, Mom says, oh, they could stay up a little later if the two boys, the 14-year-old and 9-year-old, that the oldest two are still there, the 23-year-old and the other one that survived. They could stay up if they fed the cows and the chicken, put the cows and fed the chickens before going to bed. The stupidest thing I ever heard. Anyway. No, first of all, I thought the presents were for the girls. She bought presents for the sisters, so I don't think those boys even got any presents. So, hey, you can't stay up and open presents that aren't yours unless you go out and take care of the cows and the chicken. It makes no sense. So anyway, supposedly that's what she said. Although in another version, only the oldest boy, the older boy, the 14-year-old was asked to go out and take care of it. And this is going to, when I read you what the descendant says, what her theory is about what happened to the kids, you're going to see how important this is. So I'm going through this because you're just going to be amazed at her analytical ability. Anyway, so she says they're going to go out and feed the chickens, and well, right here I want to ask one other question. How long do you think it would take them to put the cows in? I don't know how many cows they have. This is not a farm. The guy's got a trucking company. Maybe he has a couple cows. I don't know how many chickens. My daughter has, like, right now at the moment, maybe 5 hens and a rooster or something. We've had up to like 10 or something, a rooster and 9 hens. How many cows would a guy who is a trucker, runs a trucking company, he's not going to have, it's not a cattle ranch, it's not a huge farm. How long do you think it would take them, the kid, to go out? I don't know how far away from the house this is either, but I'm going to say if it's only 2 miles out of town and he doesn't have a farm, there's not a huge property. How long would Lewis, the oldest one, is that Lewis? Who? Wait a minute. Maurice, the 14-year-old. How long would it take him to go out and just, hey, okay, cows, come on in. Here's some food, chickens. 20 minutes at the most, 30. Okay, I'm good with that, Clarissa. I'm just putting it out there. All right, so keep that in your head. George and the 2 oldest boys, John, 22, this is the one that survived, and George Jr., 16, this is the other one that survived. Remember, the second oldest is 19 or whatever, and he's off in the military, and that's a whole nother weird thing. But anyway, but the boys that survived are John, 22, and George, 16. George and the 2 oldest boys, who had spent the day working with their father, were already asleep. They're all, oh my God, this case just is amazing. Okay, so George is asleep. Now, George has a room. He sleeps with his wife and the 3-year-old. He could be asleep with the baby. Okay. John and George are supposedly already asleep. Where do you think they would be asleep if all the children are up playing and laughing? Where are John and George sleeping? Young ones waiting for Santa. Oh, maybe. I usually tell the young ones to go to bed or Santa won't come. That's usually the deal. Okay, you think they should be in a bedroom, because if they were downstairs, wouldn't it be difficult for them to go to sleep if there's a bunch of children screaming and running around? Yeah, you would think they'd be upstairs. All right, keep that in your head. All right, now, after reminding the children of their remaining chores, she took Sylvia, 3, upstairs with her, which she didn't go upstairs because they slept downstairs. So there's a whole nother thing. Wikipedia, I think, is wrong on this, but who knows? And they went to bed. Okay, so now they're all out. Okay, so now they're asleep. Theoretically, George, Jennie, and little Sylvia, 3 years old, are asleep in their bedroom. Let's look at the picture again. They're asleep in that bedroom downstairs. Next in the living room is the oldest girl, who is asleep on the couch because for some reason she doesn't want to sleep upstairs with the girls. All right. All right. Now, the telephone rang at 12:30 a.m. Jennie woke and went downstairs, or didn't go downstairs, just went over to where the phone was to answer it. The caller was a woman whose voice she did not recognize, asking for a name she was not familiar with. This is true, as far as I can tell. With the sound of laughter, clicking glasses. Why? Because it sounded like a bar. Jennie told the caller she had reached the wrong number, later recalling the woman's weird laugh. Now, here again, when people think back and they're trying to say, oh, this has some suspicious meaning to it, the woman's weird laugh. She's probably drunk off her ass. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, is Bob there? No? Okay, that is not necessarily suspicious, just drunk. All right. This is 12:30. Keep in mind, 12:30 a.m. So now we are into Christmas Day. She hung up and returned to bed. As she did, so the phone is not in the bedroom. Theoretically, maybe there's an office. Okay. You will see there's supposedly an office there. Now, whoever put together this was shown on that 3-hour show. Whoever put together this absolutely awful rendition of the house, I can't see any doors going outside, because usually when you have a door going outside, you actually have an indication that it's a door. I don't see an indication that, I don't know what side of the house is what. I don't know where the doors are. It's a horrible picture. But anyway, there's an office, which is on the first floor across from the bedroom. And then you can see there's a living room and a dining room. And then sort of off the house, which is not unusual for 1945, you have a porch and a kitchen being built onto the house, and the porch being built onto the house. That I have no problem with, although I don't know that this is even accurate. But I think that phone may have been in the office. Okay, so she goes and answers the phone, and then she hangs the phone up. And as she's walking back to her bedroom, she notices that the lights were still on and the curtains were not drawn. Two things the children normally attended to when they stayed up later than their parents. How often were they staying up later than their parents? Which children were we talking about? Because as far as I know, the older sister's asleep. The two boys are asleep. Well, we have the 5 younger ones that aren't asleep, right? 2 of them supposedly are running out there to do chores in the middle of the night, and the 3 others playing with toys. So, but the lights were still on. The curtains were not drawn, and also supposedly the front door wasn't locked. So she thought that was odd. So she locked the front door. She drew the curtains. She's up. Marion had fallen asleep on the kitchen couch. The kitchen couch, living room couch. And so Jennie assumed the other children who had stayed up later had gone up to the attic where they slept. And here's another thing. Did they sleep on the second floor in the girls' and boys' room, or was there really an attic? Again, I have no clue. She closed the curtains, turned off the light, and returned to bed. You don't know where 5 of your children are. You just assume. I guess that can happen. You can assume that they were so excited when they did their chores and finished playing, they just never bothered with the rest of it. I can get that, because, as parents, everybody after the fact goes, "Whoa, a parent wouldn't do that." A lot of times, quite frankly, you will, because you're tired, you're busy, you're exhausted, you're drinking wine, I don't know, whatever it is. And so she may have truly not checked on the 5 children, assuming they should be up in their freaking bedrooms, because it's now, what time is it? 12:30. At 12:30 at night, the children should all be in their beds for someplace to sleep. You would assume that, would you not? Now, according to Mom, she only sent the 2 boys out. She didn't send the 3 girls out to take care of the chickens and the cows. How many do you need? You don't even need 2. You only need 1, even if that even was true. A couple boys, you'd send them out. Mind you, it's Christmas Eve in West Virginia. Apparently there's no snow on the ground, but it's cold as crap. So, it's cold out there. So why would you send how old were these kids? I forgot again. Okay, so you got the boys. All right, so the boys are, let's see. Okay, the girls are 12, 8, and 5. Would you really send a 5-year-old out at 10 o'clock at night to take care of chickens? Probably not. And the 14-year-old and 9-year-old boys, that they went out and took care of taking care of the animals at 10 o'clock at night. Okay. So the mother claims she only sent 2 out. There's another place where she only sent 1 out. Never did she say she sent 5 out. Now 3 girls are supposed to be playing with their toys. Why the hell would they even want to go out in the freezing cold so they can stand by their brothers and watch them feed the chickens and push the cow in? Just stupid. So anyway, at 12:30, she notices these weird things, but she doesn't check on the kids. At 1 a.m., Jennie was again awakened by the sound of an object hitting the house's roof with a loud bang and a rolling noise. After hearing nothing further, she went back to sleep. Now let's just check this out. Okay, so she is on the first floor. She's got a second floor above her, and then a roof above that with some kind of attic, probably, even if it's smaller. She hears something hit the roof and roll. A loud bang and a rolling noise. One of the theories is that there was an incendiary device that was thrown up onto the roof. And so she heard the bang and a rolling noise. Just to keep this in mind for the future, when I get into the fire issues. One of the issues I had was, were there gutters on the house? And Grok told me, oh, absolutely, they would have gutters. No, most people didn't have gutters, actually. For a matter of fact, I don't have any gutters on my darn house, which is why I have a flood. But anyway, when it rains a lot, I have had flooding, and because I have no gutter on my house. Why? It's been 10 years. I don't know. But anyway, this house didn't have gutter. This house in the picture that's supposed to be their house, do you see any gutters? I don't see any gutters. If there's no gutters, whatever hit the house rolling down would then roll off the house. Now, depending on the incendiary device, would that have caught enough of the roofing to cause it to go on fire to the level that supposedly his house went into massive whatever? Or did they actually have gutters where it got stuck in the gutter and it helped do that? I don't know, because nobody seems to know actually what the house looked like or if it had gutters. And then, of course, it's been really cold. The question is, what are the gutters like? Are the gutters full of ice? Are the gutters full of leaves, wet leaves? Was it raining? I don't know. But this is what she says. She was awakened by the sound of an object hitting the house's roof with a large bang. Now, mind you, I want to point this out because I'm going to talk about this later. Just because you heard a loud object hitting something doesn't mean it was necessarily the roof either. That's what her guess is, because I don't know. That's what her guess is. After hearing nothing further, she went back to sleep. After another half hour, she woke up again smelling smoke. When she got up again, she found that the room George used for his office, this makes zero sense to me. I can't even understand this. The office room back down there on the first floor was already aflame. If somebody threw an incendiary device upon the roof, why is the office on fire? Makes no sense to me. The police believed it was electric problem, and that's what set the fire off, which would be more likely if it was the office. And George, okay, when she got up again, she found the room that George used for his office was on fire around the telephone line and fuse box, which is why the fire people said the fuse, that's where the problem was. Electrical fire set it off there. However, then we get this other problem, that the major fire appears to be on the second floor. Those kids, supposedly, if they were in there, burned up on the second floor, and then the house collapsed. What? I'm not a fire person, but what's your problem with this picture? This is a good point. Life was different back in 1945, and that's an excellent point to make. We always think things are the way we think they are today. They're not. They're absolutely, everything is different. Well, we didn't say she the drunk call. She probably didn't think about it at the time. There was no connection between that call at 12:30 and the fire at that point. It becomes an issue later, and I'm going to point out why later. The roof was on fire. Something else is a problem for me. Let's say it's an electrical fire that started down the fuse box and the office. Yeah, the roof is on fire. What's the problem with the roof being on fire? Is it possible because they're playing with matches? Not that I know of. There doesn't seem to be anything there. Office is on the first floor. Roof is here. Major damage is on the second floor. The kids can't get out. The stairway goes on fire. You think it's not electrical. Okay, why? There's a problem here, and I'm not a fire expert, so I'm not going to pretend to be, but I have a problem with one thing which I looked up. I just want to see if anybody else comes up with the one thing I had an issue with. The wind could have pushed the flames from the office to the second floor. Let me ask this question. What direction does fire usually go? Usually. And again, I'm only putting this out there for consideration and for people to, again, this is an educational channel. I'm trying to solve this crime. I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not a fire investigator, an arson investigator, or any of this stuff. But that, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Wait a minute. Sorry, it's hard to click. Clarissa, yes, up. I'm saying to myself, usually fire goes up. So how is it that if it started here, this is on fire before it's here, but nobody said that they saw the fire go up the stairs to the second floor. I just don't understand that. Fire jumps over the second floor. It's a weird thing. If the fire started up here, why does the fire come down the stairs? Because the stairs were supposedly on fire, by the way. And that's why the two boys who were still alive said they couldn't go up and rescue their brothers and sisters because the stairs were on fire. This gets to be a whole nother. Nobody said anybody was drunk. I didn't say anybody was drunk, Krista. Nobody's drunk. Anyway. Okay, I just want to put that out there. All right. So then after she woke up smelling smoke, she got up, she found the room George used as an office was on fire around the telephone and line and the fuse box. And if she found that, you would think the fire actually did originate on the fuse box. Because how else would it get on fire? I don't know if this is even true. I'm just pointing it out. Jennie woke him, and he in turn woke his older sons. Where were the older sons? Why can nobody tell us? If you're gonna say stuff, why would he wake up his older sons? Where were those two older sons at for him to wake them up? I don't even understand that. Were they weren't in the office? Let's get this straight. They weren't in the office because she didn't go in and say, "Oh my God, the office is on fire. Boys, get out." So they clearly were not in the office. They were not in the bedroom with the mother and father. Where the heck were the older sons? They weren't in the living room. Apparently, because nobody seemed to see them in the living room. Where were they sleeping? Were they sleeping in the dining room floor or in the kitchen or on? I want to talk about why I get frustrated with certain cases. He shouted up the stairs. Okay, that is interesting to me. Thank you, Clarissa. You're doing pretty well on profiling tonight. I'm just really impressed. I'm really impressed. All right. I want to put that again. He shouted up the stairs. He woke up his older sons. He shouted up the stairs. Could he have thought that if he shouted up the stairs, wake up, there's a fire in the house, the older sons would be more likely to be responsible to then do what? Wake up the younger sons and the girls. That would put the two older sons in the bedroom upstairs in the boys' room. All right. Let's stop there. Both parents and 4 of the children, Marion, Sylvia, John, and George Jr., escaped the house. They frantically yelled to the children upstairs but heard no response. They could not go up there as the stairway itself was already aflame. John said, now John is the oldest son, not the one away. So the son can't seem to get that straight. Not the one away at war coming back. He didn't come back from war and be in the house. No, John was the oldest son who worked with his dad in the trucking industry. John said in his first police interview after the fire that he went up to the attic. And again, now the attic returns, which to alert his siblings sleeping there. Although he later changed his story to say he only called up there and did not actually see them. Okay, so one of the stories is that, again, stories, unreliable narrators understand this, that John, the oldest brother, the oldest son, who was sleeping someplace, which I can't put him downstairs, so I have to put him most likely in the boys' room or something like that. First claims that he alerted his siblings. I heard another story where he shook them, like, wake up, there's a fire in the house. And then later on, all we hear is that he called up and said, get out of the house, there's a fire. And theoretically, that's because now he's on the first floor. Well, okay, he could have been on the second. Well, he can't be on the second floor. Now all the kids are going to be in the attic, which makes no sense. So the boys' room, the girls' room, he would have to be on the first floor calling up, hey, get out of your bed. I can't get up the stairs because of the fire. So he changed his story. And changing of a story always is concerning to me. It has two possibilities. One is he's a liar. And two is that he's embarrassed that he failed to do what he should have done. And I don't know which one it is at this point, if the kids were in the house at the time of the fire. Now, keep this in mind. Many people think he was not, the kids weren't even in the house. Those 5 kids weren't in the house. So he didn't actually shake them. He didn't even see them. He just yelled, get out of the house. But they were never there to begin with. But if they were there, then there's two possibilities. One is he says he shook them. He went in there and to alert them. There's a fire in the house. You are a 22, 23-year-old man. You're the oldest in the family. And you don't make sure that your younger brothers and sisters get the hell out of there. What do you go, hey, wake up, guys, there's a fire. Bye. See ya. Does that make sense? No. Does it make more sense if there were actually truly a fire on the stairway and he couldn't get through it, that he yells, help, get out of the house, get out of the house. I don't know how they're going to get out because they got to go down a fire. So either he never could access the second floor and he yelled because that's all he could do, or he let his sisters and brothers die in the fire and ran out because he was embarrassed or because of something even more sadistic. Okay. Don't know. All right. So was there already a lot of smoke in the rooms? Maybe it's why the younger ones weren't able to wake up. Very possible. We have no information on that, but very possible. That's why nobody heard them scream. That's why nobody saw them at the windows, that they smoke overtook them. And that's very common. The smoke overtakes, and therefore they're already out. So, all right. So anyway, efforts to find aid and rescue the children were unexpectedly complicated. The phone didn't work. This is an issue. It was working at 12:30, then it wasn't working. The claim is that the phone wires were cut so that they could burn the house down and nobody could call the police. But she ran to a neighbor's house to call the fire department. So I just don't think that's overly impressive. A driver on the nearby road had seen the flames and called from a nearby tavern. Okay, so we're pretty close to a bunch of places where people are drinking. And they were unsuccessful. They couldn't reach the operator. The phones weren't great back then. All right, so finally they got hold of the fire department. Poor George, barefoot. The parents, I feel really sorry for the parents. I don't think they were good parents as far as I could see. However, I take that back. They were good parents in the sense I don't think it had anything to do with what happened with the fire. I think that it was a tragedy and the parents suffered for the rest of their lives. There are some people who say that George was the most wonderful guy in the world, and I don't know that that's true. He had a lot of opinions about Mussolini and he was very outspoken. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but on the other hand, I don't know how he treated his family. So to say he's the most wonderful father and husband, that's all garbage. You have no freaking idea whether that family was close, as they claim, or whether they were a disturbed family and some of the kids were psychopaths. We just don't know. And to say that we know when we don't know is unreasonable. All right. So anyway, he tried to climb the house's outside wall and broke open a window, cutting his arm in the process. He and his sons intended to use a ladder to the attic. Here's the attic again. Only place I see the attic is in the Wikipedia article, so I'm not inclined not to necessarily believe it. To rescue the other children, but it was not in his usual spot, resting against the house, and could not be found nearby. And it turned out that the ladder was found like, I forgot how many feet away. It was thrown down like a slight like down a little hill, like 70, 90 feet away, which is odd. So the question is, why was that ladder not where it should have been? Why was it thrown down a hill? Keep that in mind. A water barrel that could have been used to extinguish the fire was frozen solid. It's nobody's fault. It's really cold. George then tried to pull both of the trucks he used in his business up to the house and use them to climb up to the attic window. or the second floor window, depending on who you believe. But neither of them would start despite having worked perfectly during the previous day. Now, either he flooded the engines in a panic or somebody tampered, and we don't know which one it is because there's no information after the fact. I mean, if somebody tampered with the two trucks, you would think there would be proof that they cut the fuel lines or something. They had to do something to make it not start, but no, there's no information on that. So did he just flood it? I don't know. Frustrated, the 6 Sodders who had escaped, the 4 kids, 2 parents, had no choice but to watch the house burn down and collapse over the next 45 minutes. It was a very, very huge fire. And I'm not a fire expert or an arson expert, so I can't tell you why the house burned down in 45 minutes. It could be because it was built of all this nice timber. It could be because of the type of house it was, at the airflow and all that stuff. It could be because the device, whatever started the fire, was it an electric fire or was it an incendiary device? Was it a Molotov cocktail? Was it somebody pouring gas throughout the house and lighting up the whole damn place? Don't know. But it went down in 45 minutes. They assumed the other 5 children had perished in the blaze. The fire department, low on manpower due to the war and relying on individual firefighters to call each other, did not respond until later that morning. So it took them 7 hours to show up. All right. So the slow response was hampered because he couldn't drive a fire truck, and he had to wait for somebody who could drive one. It's sad, but sometimes small towns have these issues. The firefighter, one of whom was the brother of Jennie, could do little but look through the ashes that were left in the Sodders' basement. The basement is an interesting point I'm going to get to. By 10 a.m., they said they haven't found any bones, but they didn't expect that because the house had been like an inferno. And according to another account, they did find a few fragments and internal organs, but chose not to tell the family because they just didn't want to upset them because, this is your son, daughter, Okay. Sometimes people do that and to be well-meaning. Anyway, the aftermath, they said it was faulty wiring. They issued the death certificates and so on. The family then starts questioning the official account. They wondered how it could be caused by an electrical problem because the Christmas lights had remained on during the fire's early stages, and when the fire should have gone out. They found the ladder that had been missing from the side of the house on the night was at the bottom of an embankment. That was the word I was looking for, an embankment, 75 feet away. A telephone repairman told the Sodders that the house phone had not been burned in the fire, but cut by someone who was willing to go up a pole and cut the wires, preventing them from calling the fire department. Then a man whose neighbors had seen stealing a block and tackle from the property around the time of the fire. So as soon as the fire happened, like people are like, oh my God, I can steal crap. He admitted to the theft and claimed he had been the one who cut the phone line, thinking it was a power line, which is kind of odd because cutting a power line usually ends up in you being dead. But okay. But he denied having anything to do with the fire, and pretty much they don't think the fire line, anything was cut. They think it was damage there were a lot of winds and stuff. I don't know. Anyway, they couldn't find any traces of the body, so that was concerning to them. And then, this is interesting. So let's see. George believed the trucks had been tampered with, and then, but others just thought they just freaked out, trying to flooded the engine, trying to start the thing. Okay, now the wrong number phone call. Some people think it's connected to the fires, but investigators, however, located the woman who made the call. She confirmed it was a wrong number. She was drunk. All right, so now basically it comes down to this. Then the Sodders hire a whole bunch of private investigators who want to soak them for money, and they run them through all. This is one reason I have issues with private investigators, even though I've been one. I've always said, it really upsets me when I've had people call me as a profile and say, Pat, can you take a look at this case? And they're like, we had a private investigator on this case, and we've spent $20,000 so far. And I'm like, so you're spending $50 to $100 an hour because he will run down every lead that you give him because it makes him money. But he doesn't ever step back and say, look, none of this makes any sense. You don't need to waste your money on this. I will tell them that straight up front before I even accept any money. I'll say, okay, here, I'll send them an email and say, look, don't spend your money on this. Don't spend your money on me. Because it's just not true. So I'm not going to soak you for money when I can't do anything for you. But many people will. All right. So anyway, blah, 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 blah. All right. Now, that's the whole basic stuff about the case. Now, the question is, what happened to the kids? What happened with the fire? So I'm going to go to now what happened with the kids. I'm going to read you from the descendant. I'm just checking your emails right now. Okay. Christoph says, the problem I have is, how do we know 100% that the children weren't burned? It was 1945, an investigation report. That is true. But there were subsequent excavations looking for, I'll read it right here. They found some small bone fragments. They were human. Then they said they were the wrong age. They said they might have just come from some other location. They didn't understand why there were no skeletons. They looked at all the different issues about if you were in a crematorium, you would still have larger bones. So there's reasons that they were suspicious. Let's put it that way. Okay, diesel engine doesn't start. It's very cold. Very good point, Allison. Very good point. Maybe it's just like everything was so cold, and they were freaked. I know that I have a standard car. I have my, I do this thing with my little Mazda Miata, and I can tell you, compared to a manual car compared to an automatic, if you're freaked out, an automatic will start no matter what, and a manual you can simply screw it up because you're so freaked out. You're like, no, you're hitting the clutch wrong. You can not start it, so that can be an issue. Let me read you. Now I'm going to go to the kids going missing. I want you to hear. I set this up. I'm not going to have you hear it because I'm just going to read it. I hope it's in the right place. No, don't do that to me. Son of a... I had it set up for the exact place with the sound off. Hold on a second. Give me a minute here. Maybe it's here. Okay, maybe it's still right. Okay, stop. Don't do anything. Okay, I'm going to read you from the transcript from the descendant because to me this is fascinating. This is how people come to conclusions or have a theory, which I think is ridiculous. I would use the other R word, but apparently some people still object to it. Anyway, all right. Oh my God, they're screwing me. Okay, hold on a second. I got to find it again. I had it set up, and now it's not set up. It's 3 hours long, so I gotta whip my way down here to the location where. Oh, Jesus God. Okay, wait a minute. What the heck? Hold on a second. Come back. Where is that? Shouldn't it be there? Where is it? Hold on a second. Okay. It's 3 hours long, so let me roll through here. I just put it on the spot, and it won't come up for some reason. See, even when you have things perfectly planned, things don't go necessarily your way. Okay. For God's sakes, what in the heck is the problem here? Oh, for God. This is going to take me. This is ridiculous. What the heck? Okay, why isn't it not coming up at that spot? That's exactly the right spot, but it won't come up. I have the sound down for purposes of having the sound down, but okay, I want 325. Come on now. I'm working on it, folks. I mean, it's for some reason it won't go over there without. I don't know why it wouldn't go over without the sound. That makes no sense at all. But it's electronics, and what the heck want to go ahead? It's stuck. It's literally stuck. Oh, for God's sakes. Hold on a second. It's driving me crazy. Okay, it's getting there now. 300. What the heck? Come on now. Aren't they speaking? Speak. Hey, people. Okay. Now this should be going to 325. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. All right. It won't move all of a sudden. Hold on. I'm at 225 now. If I can get to 325, I'll be good. You see what I'm doing here? I had it set up. I swear to God, I did. And it will not go there. It just is. It's just, come on now. We're getting closer. We're getting to 300. This is crazy. I've never seen it do this before. It doesn't want to go there. Okay, 325. Come on. Why doesn't it go there? It's working and it won't go there. One more minute. This is really important. You're gonna really appreciate this when I actually finally freaking get there, because it makes no sense that it won't go there. I'm moving it ahead now just in order to try to do anything to get it there. Still, it's not working. The whole thing is just not working. What the? Hold on a second. Oh, for God's sake. I swear to God, the thing just shut off now. Hold on. Okay, let's see if I can get it over here. This is crazy. The weirdest thing I've ever seen. Okay, you have to listen to some noise for a minute, because for some reason it is not functioning without the sound, which makes no sense.
Went to.
Now you hear them.
You have 12 Pole Manor, which is in Wayne, West Virginia.
Oh, I heard of that one.
You heard of that one?
Yeah.
Really good. Those guys are awesome.
Oh, you know why?
The owners there really well.
Son of a. I know what happened now. Switch to the next.
And it's probably too late, but
Okay, I figured out what happened. It flipped to the next YouTube video. Okay, now I've got to try to get it back.
I think
Okay, here we go. All right, sorry guys. All right, it's a live show. I don't edit. Okay, so this is where I want to start pointing out everything. All right. Let me stop the sound. Let me stop the sound, because I didn't want to hear the sound, because it's she says, I'm going to go back to the woman who says this, just so you know who it is. So we have, this is the descendant. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name. For some reason, I'm blanking here. It's there. I'll link this so you can listen to it. She's a descendant. Anyway, this is her theory. She says the real mystery isn't whether the children died in the fire or not. It's whether so she thinks the children did not die in the fire. 100% the children died in the fire, didn't die in the fire. If the children didn't die in the fire, what is the rule there? That if the children didn't die in the fire, what's the basic point here? Just to get that. You spent the entire afternoon fighting a washing machine. Okay. If the children didn't die in the fire, what truth do we have to have? What absolute truth do we have to have? They were kidnapped. When were they kidnapped? Okay, you're saying, Christoph, fire and disappearance are connected. Was the fire set to cover up the evidence of the crime and the children were already dead or taken away? The children couldn't have already been dead, because if they were already dead, you can't get into a fire scene and take out 5 charcoal children. Okay, that didn't happen. They ran away. Well, okay. You're missing the big point, which the kidnapped is correct. But what does the truth have to be if they were kidnapped? When did they disappear is my point. When? When did they disappear? Somebody, come on now. We got to profile this here. When did they disappear? If they didn't die in the fire, when did they disappear? Midnightish. Because the fire started at 1 o'clock. So what you're saying is, thank you, Lisa. That's what I'm looking for, Lisa Mason. no, they can't die. Wait a minute, no, they cannot disappear during the fire. Once the fire is set, the children will die. So they have to go away before the fire. Okay. Clarissa, you're coming up with a theory now. I'm not getting there yet. Where the boys were outside, the girls followed them, someone lying in wait. That's one of the theories. Between 10 and 12:30. Okay. Theoretically, Tim, if you believe that at 10 o'clock at night, mommy sent them out to take care of the animals, and all 5 of them went out to take care of the animals at 10 o'clock at night in the freezing cold, then yes, it would disappear between 10 and 12:30 because mother was up at 12:30. You're correct. She's walking around the house at 12:30, right? So the fire was started at 1, but she didn't see the kids at that point in time. So they would have to disappear theoretically between 10 and 12:30, although there's another version of that. But that is basically it, Spike. They had to be taken before the fire for sure. That's the answer I was looking for. Let's look for something simple. They had to be disappeared before the fire actually started. Okay, let's go to the descendant and her theories. Because you're going to find this. I mean, I found this absolutely somewhere between fascinating and horrifying and like, please stop. Okay, she says the children absolutely didn't die in the fire. She believes that they did not die in the fire. So she has to come up with a theory, therefore, that they disappeared before the fire started, right? Okay. She says, all right, so the mystery isn't the fire, that they died in the fire. The mystery is, were the kids part of the plan? In other words, was there just a plan to burn the house down and the kids weren't part of the plan to burn the house? They weren't intended to die. They weren't intended to be kidnapped. They just wanted to burn the house down. And they assumed that the kids would be out of the house. So the whole plan was just about burning the house down. That's one of the theories. So I already have problems. Okay, so somebody wants to burn the house down in order, like maybe the insurance guy wants to get back at them or whatever, wants to burn the house down, but not kill any of the children. Let's stop right here. This is so stupid. Okay, it's Christmas Eve. The children are all home. If you're going to burn a house down and you don't want to hurt the children, why would you pick the one night when 100% of the chance is that all the children are in the house? When would be a better time? I'm going to ask this for all of you. When is a better time, if you don't want to hurt the children, to burn the house down? Please do. Somebody help. Is it significant? Probably not. This is a good question. Christoph says, kidnapping 5 children is difficult, and above all, why? And this is going to be a big issue. Why would you bother to kidnap the 5 children? Thank you. During school. All the children are school age except for 1. So if you wanted to burn the house down, all the kids go off to school. All you've got home is mommy and one child that's young. So, and chances are they're going to be in the downstairs area. So they have the best chance of running out the door. Daddy's at work. His sons are at work with him. The rest of the kids are at school. You want to burn the house down. You don't choose Christmas Eve when everybody's asleep because you didn't want to kill the kids. It's just the R word. Ridiculous. But the other R word is what I prefer to say. But I'm trying to be good. All right. So then she says here, all right, even if the kids were part of the plan, and I don't think he was, just because he was so much older. Oh, so she's talking about Maurice, the oldest boy, who's supposedly going out and take care of the animals. He's too old because he'll remember things, she says. Okay, so he's like a threat too. He might fight back. So she thinks he would have killed him really quick. Okay, that makes no sense, but okay, let's go further. So we can kind of recap the ages of the kids, she says. 14, 12, 9, 8, and 6. All right. So now it's a small house. She just pointed that out. It's a small house. So in a small house, theoretically, you should know what's going on in the small house. You should notice if half your children are missing. Theoretically, right? Mom should notice if half her children are missing. Although sometimes when you have a lot of kids, you kind of ignore half of them anyway. But okay. It says here, okay, these kids were like incredibly close, like practically inseparable. descendant of the Sodders. It has been 80 years. How on God's earth do you know the personalities of these children 80 years later? They're practically inseparable. They would never be apart. They might hate each other. They might beat each other up. You have not a freaking clue. And you're making up this stuff that they're inseparable. And why does she have to have them be inseparable? I'm going to tell you why. So she says, if they weren't part of the plan, then what more likely happened was that the kids went outside to do their chores at 10 o'clock at freaking night. And they just happened to go out at the same time that people showed up to set the house on fire. What's the problem with the statement right here? What's the problem with the statement? Let's read it again. The kids went outside to do their chores. First of all, their chores, 5 kids weren't, their chores were not putting the chickens and the cows away. That was not their chores. Apparently, it's just a couple of them. And then they saw they had to react quickly and had to take them because they were outside doing their chores, closing up the chicken, like putting the chickens up. They had other animals too. They were always together. If one of them was out somewhere, the others was always with them. Thank you, Siobhan. If the mother theoretically sent them out at 10 o'clock at night, now she claims she only sent out 1 or 2 at 10 o'clock. The fire's at 1. If it only takes 20 to 30 minutes of that to go out there and do something you don't even need to do at night, you're going to be back by 10:30. So it has nothing to do with the 1 o'clock. They're not hanging out there waiting for 1 o'clock. They didn't need to steal the children. The children could go back in the house. But besides which, there's 5 of them. You don't care about the other children in the house, only those 5. So you don't want them to go back in to get killed, but you'll kill them later. I mean, it makes no sense. On top of that, I don't care how close you are. You're playing with your the toys your sister just brought you. 3 girls are playing with their toys their sister just got you, and you're like, oh, my brothers have to go do a chore. Let me go get them all my warm clothes and go out and stand there and watch them do the chore. I'm sorry. She needs a different job. If she thinks she can profile, she can't. Her analysis is ridiculous. That's the R word I can say. So stupid. Oh my God. And what did they do for 3 hours before them? I don't know. I mean, the whole thing is she needs a way to control her narrative. She does. And it's so terrible. So you got 5. So no, 5 kids did not go out to take care of the chickens and the cows. That's just ridiculous. 1 kid, I can buy that at 10 o'clock. Maybe if mom said, oh my God, I completely forgot. We've been so busy. She'll send 1, maybe 2, not the 3 girls. So there's no reason why all 5 kids would leave the house. And since the actual fire didn't happen for 3 hours, why would somebody be kidnapping 5 kids to prevent them from going back in the house for when the fire starts and then kill all the other kids? I mean, it's ridiculous. Anyway, let's go on. She's saying about Martha. That's one of the girls. Oh, she was kind of like the middle child, the mother. Like she took care of the younger kids. She was always in charge of the younger kids. So, she would have went out with them. So they would have all went outside to do the chores together at 10 o'clock at night. The little kids, she's going to take a 5-year-old out to do chores because that's what older sisters do. Maurice was probably killed pretty quickly. And then they just shuffled the other kids around. And that's why they were seen in a hotel in Charleston. And then after a few days, they couldn't decide what to do with them. So they probably killed them and disposed of their bodies where they would never be found. So these completely incompetent people kidnapped 5 children for no freaking reason, 3 hours before they actually set the fire, killed one of the boys right up, get rid of all the bodies, and nobody ever found any of the kids. Become something else besides a profiler. All right. Lord God. So that's one theory. So I just want to point that out because the one theory is if the kids didn't burn up in the fire, it had to be because they weren't in the house at the time of the fire at all. Now, the other thing she says, which is her This is in between. The phone call was supposed to be a warning and a signal. The warning was for the kids to not be in the house, and the signal was for the people to go bomb the house or to bomb the house. Okay, again, the phone call was just irrelevant, and that it was not any kind of warning. Oh, the claim is that the person wanted to burn up the house, but they wanted to wake up the mother so she would be awake so she could tell everybody else to get out of the house so they wouldn't hurt anybody. Good God Almighty. All right. Now, the other thing is, she says here, okay, now here's another version. I believe they were told, okay. I think the kids left on purpose. I think they were told ahead of time to stay up late that night. I think that Martha was told to keep her younger siblings awake for, whatever reason, like, a surprise party. We need help getting presents for your family, or, whatever. I believe they were told by a trusted person that, I will say that what I believe is, was also believed by George and Jennie, the parents. Yeah, that they were told by a trusted person that they needed to stay out late that night. And that for whatever reason, they weren't supposed to tell their parents because it was going to be a surprise. And the person came and picked them up. Picked them up and took them somewhere for the night. And then the next day, then they said, oh my God, the house burned down. So sorry about that. We can't take you back. We got to do something. So they're saying on Christmas Eve, a trusted person. Who the hell is this trusted person? The insurance salesman who said the kids are all going to burn up? Who's this trusted person who said to the kids, on Christmas Eve, I want you all to sneak out of the house and we're going to take you away. Don't tell your parents. And we're going to take you someplace and hide you all night long. Oh my God. It's so bad. That's so bad. Invite the lady on the show and you two can analyze the case. It'll be funny. Oh my God. So ludicrous. It's just so, oh my God. I mean, it's so bad. It's just sad. No, yeah, this is true. The kids couldn't keep a secret like that. You really think that the older teenage girls going, oh, I'm going to get all my kids out of the house, not tell my parents so we can go off with trusted person and disappear. It's pitiful. Okay. Now, supposedly she says this, once the house burned down, now they want to get them out of the country because, they're going to get on a boat and go to Italy. Now, I'm going to say that they got 5 kids that aren't theirs. All the 5 kids know who the hell they are. These aren't babies. Every one of the kids knows exactly who they are, even if they heard the parents. The whole family died the night before in the fire. Let's assume that that's true. Oh my God, the family died. Tell me who has not died in that fire. Somebody tell me who didn't die in that fire. Who didn't die in that fire? Absolutely. If they told the kids the house burned down and everybody who was in the house died in the fire, who didn't die in the fire? Who didn't die in the fire? Thank you. Older brother. There we go. Older brother isn't even in the house. So therefore, older brother's still alive. So now they're going to tell the kids that instead of trying to find out what happened to your family, for sure, ever reading a newspaper or going and finding your older brother, we're going to now take you to Italy on a boat. The passage for 5 kids on a boat is not exactly the cheapest thing in the world. So first she's got all of them. They murdered all of them and buried them someplace in West Virginia or Kentucky or whatever. But now she's got them on a boat to Italy. Oh my God. And then it just gets worse and worse. I don't believe they were kept together. I believe they were separated and more likely sold into slavery. So you got a bunch of 5 kids who are all going, take us home, we know who we are. But somehow you get them on a boat. They have to have documentation. They don't have any documentation, but you get them on a boat. I guess it's a pirate boat. And they spirit them on to Italy. And Italy, mind you, this has been World War II. There are tons of orphans in Italy because so many parents have been killed that 5 more kids is not something anybody needs in Italy. They've already got kids they can If they want to sell kids into slavery, they already got a pile of them. They don't need 5 kids from in the U.S. We don't even speak Italian. So they're sold into slavery. And then it says here, but it's possible that Betty was adopted since she was, the older, she was the younger one. She was adopted. And maybe Martha, the oldest one, was probably sold as a child bride. Okay, I gotta stop. She's causing me a lot of pain. All right. So anyway, I did watch part of this 3-hour slog, as I call it, and to get to, she kept saying, "I'm going to tell you there. I've got an opinion," and I kept waiting for her because she supposedly spent time studying the family history. I thought she'd come up with something rational, at least something close to rational. Oh my God, just unbelievable. Oh my God. So anyway, do I think the kids were kidnapped prior to the fire and abducted because they were either lured out of the house by a trusted friend, or that they all got kidnapped because all 5 of them decided to go out in the freezing cold 3 hours prior to the fire and got kidnapped? No, that's ludicrous. Stop it. Just stop it. That makes 0 sense. So now I want to go to the other version. If the kids weren't kidnapped at 10 o'clock when they went to do chores and all of them decided to do chores together, then they were in the house on the 2nd floor. The other theory is that somebody, that ladder that's supposed to be against the house, somebody went up there and kidnapped all 5 kids out of the 2nd story with the ladder. And then after they got all the 5 children out of the house, they threw the ladder someplace and then kidnapped the kids. Okay, first of all, this fire hasn't been started. First, I don't know why they would know. First, they got 2 different bedrooms, so it's not like 1 window, it's 2 windows. How are they going to get all 5 kids out of there? How do they know the older kids aren't upstairs? How are they going to keep them from screaming, "Mommy, mommy, daddy, daddy"? But they point a gun at one. I mean, I don't even want to go there. It's so ridiculous. How are they going to get the kids to go down the ladder? Because I'm afraid of ladders. I mean, I don't do ladders. Ladders freak me out. And they either have to carry the kids down the ladder. They got to force the older teens to get down the ladder. Come on now. It's just stupid. We got a lot of presents down here. Oh my God. No way it could have been done quietly. It's so bad. Oh my God. So here we go. So here's a problem I have. There's no way in God's earth these children were not in the house when the house burned down. I don't care if you couldn't find their bones. I don't care about any of that stuff. Not one story about how they got 5 kids out of the house makes one shred of sense. I understand where the parents are coming from. They want to believe these 5 kids are alive no matter what. They can't handle their half their family dead. I mean, I'd lose my damn mind over that. I'd lose my mind over 1, but 5, oh my God. I understand it. I understand where they're going to look for every excuse to find that their kids somehow escaped the fire. And that private investigators and everybody else who's willing to play the game just helps keep that belief alive in them. So I understand the parents. But my God, folks out on the internet and the descendant, are you out of your mind? There's absolutely no logical reason why these kids vanished out of the house on Christmas Eve. All 5 of them in any logical life. It didn't happen. So do I believe the kids were in the house? 100%. They were in the house. Why their bones weren't found? Now there's an interesting part about that. Apparently, regardless of how the fire started, the house collapsed pretty quickly. And in the basement, there were huge drums of fuel that Daddy kept for his trucking business. Apparently, he did not keep them. Now, again, unreliable narrator. So if somebody comes up and says, "Well, that was complete bunk," I can't say that they're wrong because, again, all this stuff is so unreliable. But apparently, this is supposedly he had the cellar below the house. Now, I've lived in a 250-year-old house. I had 2 cellars in the house. One of my cellars was actually made into they actually made liquor down in that cellar during the 1920s when it was illegal. And there was a still down there. And I had an entire like cement room. It's incredible. Cement ceiling, cement walls, cement everything. A great place for a tornado. So let me tell you, if you ever have a tornado, you go right down in that room. That's where the still was. And so could I believe that they would put large drums of fuel in a cellar? Sure, if that's the only place they had to store that stuff. Normally speaking, I guess if it doesn't, it doesn't crack, the fuel doesn't get out, doesn't get set on fire. It's cool and damp down there. It's a good place. I believe that when the fire the house collapsed, it collapsed into a basement on top of fuel. And I believe that they didn't say there were any explosions, but I believe the fuel probably did leak for whatever reasons. I don't know how things work in that sense. I'm not a fire investigator on the scene. Once that happened, that's a massive inferno. 8 hours of that fuel leaking and burning up bodies. I'm going to say maybe those bodies just were burned up. Just that's the way it went. And then Dad, because he was so upset about what happened, he just he just bulldozed the whole place and made that graveyard for the kids, covered it all up really quickly. I don't think he did anything on purpose to cover anything up. I just think he believed at that point in the beginning, George Sodder believed his kids were dead in that ground, and he just covered it up. And later on, they started digging everything up, trying to find bones. But I believe the kids definitely died in that fire because there's no other reasonable explanation. There's no reasonable way that 5 kids were removed from the house prior to the fire. So I believe they died in the fire, and I believe that they fuel in the basement. If I'm correct that it existed, and I say correct with quotes, that inferno from 1 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 hours of an inferno. I'm going to say it could well have completely eradicated the bodies. So I just don't know. If the fire is hot enough and burns long enough, you only find ash, maybe. And then you say 911, they never found. I'm not doing arson investigation here, and there's a lot of arguments, but the point being, I can't get the children out of the house. If I could find one rational way for the children to leave the house, I could say, maybe they weren't there. I cannot find any rational reason. So my belief is the children were there. They died in the house. So the fire killed them. Now the question of the fire comes up. So this is what I want to get into as my last part of the show. What caused the fire? The authorities thought it was electrical fire. And because there was some issue about the office having a fire in it, maybe so. And do I think anybody, okay, let's talk about the firebombing of the house. Theoretically, there was somebody who was passing by who claimed that they saw balls of fire coming off the roof. And so there was another issue about, let me go back to the fine Wikipedia. Not really, but okay, there was a claim that, okay, let me find the claim. Okay, wait a minute, where is it? Hold on a second. Oh, okay, wait a minute. The witnesses, okay. Evidence soon emerged indicating the fire had not started in an electrical fault, but instead set deliberately. The driver of a bus that passed through Fayetteville late Christmas Eve said he had seen some people throwing balls of fire at the house. Okay, right there. First of all, it wasn't Christmas Eve. It was Christmas morning. But throwing balls of fire at the house. A bunch of people throwing balls of fire. Not just one person, but a bunch of people. A few months later, when the snow had melted, Sylvia, one of the children, found a small, hard, dark green rubber ball-like object in the brush nearby. George, recalling his wife's account of a loud thump on the roof before the fire, said it looked like a pineapple bomb, a hand grenade, or some other incendiary device used in combat. Now, the family later claimed, contrary to the fire marshal's conclusion, that the fire had started on the roof, although by then there was no way to prove it. All right. Now, the second oldest son, this is a weird thing here, supposedly arrives on Christmas Day to find that everything had burned down and helped the family at that point. He was supposedly the one that identified this as an incendiary device, the pineapple thing, not George, because George didn't know crap about incendiary devices, but the second oldest son had been in the army and in war, so he would know these things. So supposedly he was the one. Again, we have two different stories on who identified this as an incendiary device and what was it called? To get a pineapple bomb. I looked it up because that's one possibility. I looked up a lot of different devices, what could have been thrown upon the roof. And if they didn't have the gutter, would it stay upon the roof or would it just roll right off? What would it actually do? And we have George making one claim and the second son making it. He's the one that came up with this. And just because Sylvia found a small, hard, dark green rubber ball-like object in the brush doesn't mean it was actually anything of worth. So I don't even know any validity to that was never examined and proven to be any kind of incendiary device. So we go back to somebody. Who is it? Okay, so a bus passed through on late Christmas Eve. Well, Christmas Eve again was not when the fire started. It started at 1 a.m. So I don't know how this person saw people throwing things on the roof. Could it be true? Maybe they had the timing off. Maybe Wikipedia is full of shit because I don't have the times right. Okay, let's say somebody did see some balls of fire on the roof. Did they see people? Wait a minute. They saw some people throwing balls of fire. They saw people throwing incendiary devices at a house and just kept on going. Didn't go to the police, didn't try to warn the people that the house was being burned down. It's like, oh, look at that. That's interesting. And just kept going. Get out of here. I also heard it was not a bus driver. I heard it was just some person saw a ball of fire. I don't know if they saw anything at the time, or did they see something later when the house was burning down, or just make up this crap? Who were they? I don't know. I mean, it's just nonsense. So anyway, we don't have any proof, as far as I know, that anything was thrown on the roof of the house, except for Jennie, the mother, said she heard a thump and she thought she heard a rolling sound. What a thump and a rolling sound actually mean, I don't know. Again, we're in retrospect type of thing. She might be saying in retrospect. So here's the thoughts I have. Either it was an electrical fire, as the original people said. I don't know why the fire went up the stairs. That bothers me. If the fire was found in the office, what is the first thing you do when you see a fire in a room on the downstairs? What do you do? She says, "Oh my God, there's a fire here." What would you do? Do you think the noise you heard was the ladder being moved? Why would the ladder be there? I mean, again, no kids were being pulled out of the house. So no, I tend not to believe that. What do you do when you go in and you find the fire in your office? At least if you're not a complete R word again. I'm trying so hard not to say that word today. Go in the opposite. She did go in the opposite direction. She told everybody to get out of the house. Run upstairs to where the kids are. Call for help. She tried to call for help, but the things weren't working. Go in the opposite direction. She did. She told her daughter who was sleeping on the couch to go get the baby out of the house. Go upstairs. Now, I don't know that the fire was in existence on the stairs at that point. If the fire was, she went into the office and found that there. What do you do with the door? You go through the office, you open up the door, or it's open, you walk in and go, "Oh shit, there's a fire in here." What do you do? It was in the office. Maybe the fire hadn't reached the stairs. You would think it would not have reached the stairs by then. This is true. Thank you. Oh, thank God. Tim, thank you. Leave and shut the door. if when you see a fire in a room, you usually shut the door, which prevents the fire from going through the house. Thank you. Then Lisa says also close the door. Yes, everybody's saying close the door. Yeah, exactly. Liz says leave the door open. I know you're messing with me. Okay. So there's a problem here. Now, if the fire was electric, and it can go through the walls. I mean, again, I'm not going to do a whole fire arson thing here. If I were actually writing a book on this or doing a whole show or something, not this show, but you know what I mean. If I were doing an entire Netflix documentary and I was the primary person speaking, I would get arson people aboard on this, because I do have books on arson. I have a lot of them. I've studied arson, but I'm nowhere near an arson specialist. So I would get somebody to really look at how arson works. So, I mean, it just, yeah, I'm having trouble with the fire going up. I'm having trouble with the not shutting the door. I'm having a problem with mom telling everybody to get out of the house, but doesn't immediately run up the stairs to get this other 5 children up there. Now, where the hell are the 2 boys? Now, this is where I run into real problems. So the older boy, the oldest boy in the house, was 22, 23. What's his name? Is it John or Joe? Just so I don't mess this up. Okay. Okay, I think that's John. Oldest son Joe is away. John is the one I think still in the house. John is 22 years old. He works with Dad. John is the one that claims he tried to wake up the kids, and then he said, no, I just yelled up to them. Do I think somebody from outside the family tried to kill the family? I don't find any legitimate reason to believe that. I do not. I don't. Could it have happened? Yes. Could somebody have decided, I hate those people. They're a bunch of anti-Mussolini people, and they're jerks. I don't like that guy. I don't like George. I don't care if all his kids die. And they did indeed throw an incendiary device on the roof, and it just set the house on fire in a way you just can't believe. Could that have happened? Yes. I don't take that way as a possibility. Did the kids die? Yes. The kids have never been kidnapped. The kids would have died in the fire. So could an outside person have done this, and they just couldn't prove it? It's just, no, they just didn't have enough proof to actually say anybody else did it, but they thought it was electrical fire. Absolutely. Could that have happened? Yes. If it was not an outside person, okay, so there's 3 possibilities. One is an electrical fire. It's just one of those freaky things that happen. And the fire somehow, maybe due to the way the house is built, the fire went up the walls. I just don't know, because I don't have any of the proof of how anything worked there. Could it have been truly an electrical fire? Do I think the mother's behavior is a little strange? Yes, I do. But I don't think it's on purpose. I just don't understand it. I don't know if it's even true from what we hear. Electrical fire, quite possible. Outside person throwing a device on the roof, it would have to be an outside person. Nobody, I don't believe there's a bunch of people throwing things on a roof and a bus driver just drove on and went home and went to sleep. I don't believe that. I think that's nonsense. Could somebody do they need to have a ladder to throw an incendiary device on the roof? I don't know. I don't think so, unless they're really weaklings, you know what I mean? I also want to know if they're gutters. If there were no gutters, the thing's just going to fall off the roof, unless it's a device that hits and completely explodes at the time. I don't know. Is it possible? Sure. I just don't have any proof of that. There was no sound of a car around at that time. The phone call means nothing. That was a wrong number. So that's all nonsense. So essentially, the fire started at 1 o'clock in the morning by unknown methodologies. Nobody hurt a vehicle. There's no proof that anybody else did it, but it could have happened, and it could have been an electric fire. The only other one I even consider as a possibility is John. And the reason I talk about that is because I don't understand where the hell he was sleeping, because his original statement appeared that he was upstairs sleeping. That was a boys' room with 4 of them in it. So the 2 younger ones that died in the fire, and then John and Louis, wait a minute. No, John and who's the one that were the ones that survived. John and okay, wait a minute, let me find him again. John and George Jr. John and George Jr. were up. So theoretically, all 4 boys should have been in that same room. And originally, John said he shook the kids or whatever. So if John said that, he would have to be on the 2nd floor in the boys' room and then the girls' room. It's an odd statement because he's 22 years old. If you know there's a fire in the house, the last thing you do is say, hey, wake up, and then run away yourself and leave all your siblings to die. You would make damn sure they got the hell out of the house. So John's statement is a little creepy, unless John really was not on the 2nd floor. And he never said that, and it's all bull crap in the media. And he couldn't get through the fire, and he yelled, get out, kids, do something. I don't know, we expect them to go because they're stuck on the other side of the fire. Did he tell them to jump out the window? No, nobody seems to. That's very unclear. So John's statement supposedly changed, although I don't know if it's true. Could he have woke up? Could he have? Now, if he woke up and there was a fire rage and he told his brother, the next one, George Jr., hey, there's a fire, get out. And George ran and got down the stairs before the fire started. And he shook his little brother and said, get out, the fire started. But he's a little chicken shit, so he ran down the stairs and then everybody burned up. Possibly. And he doesn't want to admit later on that, man, I didn't even stay. I just shook them and told them to get the hell up, and they didn't. And I ran. And then they all died of smoke inhalation and then fire. So, he could just be feeling guilty as hell. The only other possibility is that he was somebody who started the fire. And the only reason I bring this up is because, is it possible? Sure. We've seen many cases where we have families that are supposed to be so happy, and all the kids are supposed to be so happy, but you got the psychopath in the family who then commits complete family annihilation. Could he have wanted to annihilate the family? Possibly. Could he have basically told his, started a fire, told his, and then his brother caught on and ran out, and then he could have had an incendiary device like a Molotov cocktail, not a fancy thing, but just a Molotov cocktail, and threw it in the rooms, and the rooms blew up, and then he ran down the stairs, and then is it possible he even put fire on the oil, some kind of gasoline, because he had access to all the fuel, put some fuel on the stairs and lit it up, and all that happened, and then he's like, oh, Mom, look what happened, I can't get up there. Could he have done that? Maybe. I mean, so in other words, I don't have any proof that happened. So I got 3 things. A complete stranger just decided to throw. They would literally have to throw something on the roof, as the mother thought, to set the house on fire because they were angry. And is it possible as an arsonist who just lost, nasty piece of work? Sure. Electrical fire, like the police thought from the beginning? Sure, but I understand the dynamics of the fire. Or could John, the only one I think could have set the fire as because he had access and he was the oldest, and could he have set the fire in some version by a certain manipulation? Yes. And his story changed. So I would say it could be one of these 3 things. I have no idea which one it is because I have no proper access to any kind of information. It's just like there's suspicious things on all 3 of these things. But I can tell you one thing. These kids were not kidnapped. The kids were not kidnapped. The most likely story is that it was an accidental death of a house that just went on fire. Maybe the police were right from the very, very beginning. The second choice would be somebody within the house did something because they're a psychopath. The third choice is George pissed somebody off in town who decided, I'm just going to come in. I'm going to burn that house down. I don't give a crap what happens to the family. That's where you have to leave it, because there's no way 80 years later I can prove any one of those things. Maybe if I went back to Fayetteville and West Virginia and went through every single document, I'd be able to come to some conclusions. The conclusions I won't come to are what the descendant came that these kids were kidnapped and all those weird things happened to them, sold into slavery, child brides, and oh my God, that's not going to happen. She needs to stop trying to profile anything. And of course the video didn't get a lot of play, but still, I mean, I think I don't know if she means well, or she just thought this would be a cool thing to be able to do, and maybe she'd, I have no idea what's in her mind. I really was surprised. I really expected more of a lot. No, just basically, this is what I've learned from the family history and all this. But she made up so many nonsensical things. You cannot say 80 years later, that the kids would have gone out and done the chores together and things like that. You're making up stuff that you have no clue about, and you also have no clue about history. So this is maybe just not your thing. That's all I can say. Okay, I'm going to go to some of your comments. This is a normal thing. The difference is the family doesn't want to accept, but what's really sad to me, I'm really pissed at the private investigators, because private investigators often, they will make money off of people who are suffering. And I think that's wrong. I mean, it's one thing to say, look, if there was some evidence that the children were actually kidnapped, I can see that they might want to run that down. But a lot of times they don't care what the truth is. I've told this to so many families of missing children and murdered children. I'm like, you got to stop always just jumping on. Now, what's interesting is I don't charge. A lot of times I didn't even charge for my analysis, but they would pay tens of thousands of dollars, $50,000 to some private investigator who will run down every lead they put out there. In other words, anything they say, they'll run with, because it makes them money. Instead of saying, hey, look, that's not the way it is. But once they say it's not the way it is, the job is over. And they're not going to make any money at all. So that's how you make money. And it's a damn shame. A loving big brother would have carried them out of there, not just gone like this. The story about from that brother is a little bit concerning, and I don't know. Again, I can't say whether I don't know what's true and what isn't true. If it's true that he originally said that he tried to wake them up, and then later changed his story to I just yelled up the stairs. If you tried to wake them up, you had to be on the same level as them. That's the part that bothers me. I don't know if that's true, though. That could be complete baloney. That's the problem. So that's why I'm saying I can't say that I'm really super suspicious of that brother, because I don't have any proof that he actually said that. He may have been, but the thing that bothers me, I think the most about this case, is I don't understand why those two boys are not sleeping in the same room as their brothers. Their two younger brothers died in that fire in the boys' room. Why weren't they with them? Where were they sleeping? I don't get this, because nobody said they were sleeping in the living room with their sister. Nobody said they were sleeping in the office, because they obviously weren't, because when mom went in the office, they weren't in the office. Where the hell were they sleeping? On the porch in freezing weather? No. Sleeping in the kitchen on the floor? Now, sometimes in the 40s, if you had that many kids, sometimes they had a thing called a pallet, and you put down the pallet and you sleep on it. Now, mind you, I have a blow up backpacker's mat. One of these things. It goes like this. It's really comfy, and it blows up pretty quickly. You can carry it on a backpack. So it's a blow up mat. It's not like one of these big ones. It's a small one. It's quite narrow, but it's super comfortable. And when I stay at my daughter's house in Ocean City, Maryland, a lot of times there's too many people in there. And so what I do is I say, hey, I'll just bring my mat and my sleeping bag. I sleep behind the couch. I blow up the mat and sleep behind the couch on the sleeping bag. And so, yes, could I sleep on a pallet on the floor? Sure, because I basically am. Now, could those two boys sleep on pallets on the floor? Sure. They could sleep on the dining room floor. They could sleep in the kitchen, I suppose. Not in the office, because mom was there. So it'd have to be, I don't believe in the living room, because sister was there and nobody noticed them. So my question is, if they were actually downstairs, why does nobody say they were sleeping in the dining room? They were sleeping in the kitchen on pallets. Why is nobody saying anything? And why originally they say they went to bed? Because if they went to bed at 10 o'clock, where did they go to bed except most likely in their bedroom on the second floor? Now, I also checked out the issue of bunk beds because they were kind of a new thing. But if you have 4 kids in one room, 4 kids in another room, a pair of bunk beds in each room makes total sense. They were starting to go on the market. People made them. So did bunk beds exist at that point in time? Yes, they did. And sometimes also what they did was they just put two double beds in the room and 2 kids slept in each one of the beds together. Now, admittedly, maybe you prefer to sleep on a pallet on the floor rather than sleep with your brother. I get that. But the point is, nobody's saying where the hell these 2 boys were sleeping. And where were they? I just don't know. And if the brother said he went tried to wake them up and then change his story, he had to be on the second floor. If he was on the second floor, why didn't he make sure his brothers and sisters got the hell out of there? Why would he say wake up and then run and leave them to die in the fire? I mean, maybe it's chicken shit. So maybe it's just that's the kind of guy he was. But I mean, there's always the possibility that he set the fire, and he could have set the fire in many, many ways. And it could have. People said one of the things they said was that they supposedly did some supposed arson investigation, didn't detect necessarily any fuel in the places that were accelerant. But the whole place, if the Pope place was burning down for 7 hours into the basement, into the cellar, which had accelerant in it, how would they notice if there was ever accelerant? How would they know accelerant was never on the stairs? So if the stairs were up in flames, could it be because somebody put accelerant on them? Perhaps. Perhaps the fire did start on the second floor, not the roof. Perhaps accelerant was poured down the stairs. I have no clue. All I can say is that it's interesting, and there's 3 possibilities: an electrical fire, a fire by an outsider that committed arson, or arson by a family member committing family annihilation. And I can't tell you which one is true. But I can tell you these kids are dead. So stop staying there alive. They're people. Tim says, their stories sound odd, but people way out in the sticks have a different way of narration. And only someone that knows the way of thinking can ask questions the right way. That is also true. And the problem is, it's been 80 years. We have no clue what they actually said, how it was reported. We just don't know. I wish I could see the police reports. Supposedly, the brother changed his story in the police reports. If that's true, that's very interesting. I don't know whether police reports will say where they were sleeping. I want to know where the 2 boys were sleeping. Or was one boy upstairs, one boy downstairs? I don't know. But I want to see the police reports. If I were investigating this crime, I would want to know exactly who was sleeping, exactly where. I would want to know that. That's a very important thing. I would want to know the family dynamics. So there are so many things if I'm investigating that I would want to know. And if I could go to Fayetteville and see all the police reports, I would be excited because that would be really interesting. And I could use a trip to West Virginia. Not now, but maybe in the spring. So that would be great. What was in the show? Wait. Tell me, Liz. Okay, tell me. I think it was in the show. What was in the show? Oh, wait a minute. Full House. They could have chosen to sleep and say that's all made up stuff, though. That's the problem. And a lot of the shows just say stuff, and they're just repeating stuff that's out there, and they're not even analyzing. They're just repeating stuff, telling a story. So I did ask you. I think Liz, were you the one I asked? Okay, in the show you saw, what did they say happened? Did they say the kids were kidnapped or the kids died in the fire? What did they say? The older brother was young enough to have panicked and run out, was later embarrassed. No, he was 22 years old. He was 22. He's an adult man with responsibilities. And it's a little odd that he would be that much of a chicken shit. Could it happen? Sure. I mean, not everybody is the kind of, stand-up guy we want him to be. And maybe he left his siblings to die and doesn't want to admit it. But maybe he set them on fire. I don't know. That's the point. I just don't know. I have no clue. They said what? They said the rooms the brother was in. What rooms did they say the brother was in? What room? What room? that the brothers who survived were on the second floor. Yes, okay. Of course they were on the second floor. Those are the brothers. No, what? Wait a minute. The brothers that survived were on the second floor bedroom across from the girls. Well, if they were in the second floor bedroom, they were with their two other brothers. Now, I don't know where they got that from, Liz. This is what drives me nuts about this case. They're saying that because it makes sense that they should be there. That's what I think. I think they should be in that room. I think there should be 4 boys here, 3 girls there, and 1 girl downstairs, the teenage girl, and then the baby. That's where all the kids should be, my opinion. 3 girls. Wait a minute. How do I do this? 4 boys in one room, 3 girls in the other, because the girl that would be over here is sleeping downstairs, and then the baby. Yes. But do they have any proof of that? Or are they just guessing that's where the boys should have been? And if the boys were up on the second floor, what's the theory about why those 2 boys left the room and what they got down the stairs but left their 5 siblings to die? John Boy would have carried everyone out. Yeah, he would have. So the problem is, we just don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he was panicking and actually couldn't get to the girls, but his story changing is hard to grasp. It is hard to grasp if the story is true. And again, I have to just point this out. I have not a clue. I don't. And I'm not going to tell a story as if it is true, because I just don't know. Because I say this is one of the worst renditions of the story I've ever heard. Every place I hear it is just a whole bunch of nonsense. But the whole point of most of people's storytelling is to claim these 5 were kidnapped and never died in the fire. That's what everybody wants to go with, because it's such a good mystery. And then there's this big conspiracy, and it's nonsense, because there's no way in God's earth these 5 kids were kidnapped. I mean, that's just I would bet on that. I mean, that's one thing when I say occasionally I say 100% assured. I will say 100%. I would say these kids were not kidnapped. They died in the fire, regardless of how much of their bodies were not found. They died in the fire. How the fire happened, if anybody said it, outside or inside, I cannot say, because I have so little information that would help me analyze the actual cause of the fire, and if anybody was involved in the cause of the fire, or it was simply an accident. I just have no clue. Yeah. Christoph says, I think the mystery exists because of little information. Yeah, because the case happened so long ago. Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know. The same thing today would not be mysterious. Well, apparently Madeleine McCann, JonBenet Ramsey, it keeps going and going. What really keeps these things going is people wanting to make money off of YouTube channels. Books, YouTube channels, whatever it is. People, it's the media. It's the people who know they can stir up excitement. The one that I just pointed out, this one here, what happened to the Sodder children? Let me tell you exactly how many views they have on that. They have, okay, where is it? Oh, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Hold on a second. Let me find out how many they have. All right. Now, I will get approximately 2,000 views on this analysis. They have 1,713. 1,713,105 views. They have 3,000 comments. Their channel has 3.77 million subscribers. And let me just go look at some of these comments here. The police rushing to declare an accident and stumbling, refusing to investigate, shows that it's really organized crime. Confirms it was organized crime. Cut telephone wires, stolen ladder, trucks out of commission, of mysterious phone call, blah, 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 blah. No remains, no screams, no explanation. 5 children vanished into thin air on Christmas Eve, which it wasn't. We're just supposed to believe it was an accident. My heart breaks for the Sodders. It most likely was an action of pure malice and a premeditated attack. Blah, blah, blah. So it goes on and on and on. So So 3,000 comments, which are probably 90% think the kids have been kidnapped, and a big, huge conspiracy. And that gets you almost 2 million views. 2 million views on a 45-minute, it's 45-minute thing. Do you know how much money they make on 2 million views on a 45-minute video? Holy crap almighty. I probably made less in an entire year than they made on one video. But that's the way it is. That's what I'm pointing out. People, when you can catch the attention of the public, and you got to put something out there that excites them. Creepy stuff, oh my God, we have all this horrible thing happening, the kids were kidnapped, where could they be? It makes money, and that's the way it is. That's the way the world works. So lots of narrative pushing, absolutely, 100%. Tim Harris says, fourth possibility with pranksters that never meant to actually catch fire. Yeah, but I would go with Christmas Eve is not a good time. I mean, even though it didn't start to Christmas morning, but it is the nighttime. Dr. Grande, who does think the kids died in the fire, by the way, he did have to make his joke about that when the mother heard the thump on the roof, it was probably the reindeer, Santa Claus's reindeer landing. He's got to do that. But at least he didn't fall for the kidnapping bit. He just so I was pleased to see that. But it's just amazing to me that the illogic of these kids being kidnapped, 5 kids being kidnapped because they all went out at 10 o'clock at night to go put the chickens in, feed the chickens, is so ridiculous. Or that they were carried out of a window right before the fire on a ladder, 5 children, including the big ones. This is so silly. And on top of it, just the basic thing is, who wants 5 children? I mean, what's the point? If you're going to kidnap a kid, you kidnap the baby. You wouldn't kidnap teenagers and a whole bunch of kids. You wouldn't do that. There's no sense in it. And I say there's tons of orphans after World War II. You're not going to take a bunch of kids. You're going to try to, what do they come with? A big truck or a station wagon to shovel all those kids into? And then they're taking them around. They got to put 5 kids in a hotel. Oh, look, 5 kids that look like Italian kids. I wonder if those are the kids. I mean, get out of here. And they're going to pay all this money to ship the kids off to somehow, I guess they're going to have to get false identifications for the kids so that they can get them on the ship back to Italy. And then they're going to sell. I mean, it hurts my brain that there's like zero logic here. Zero logic. And so everybody was saying these kids are kidnapped. You all need a logic implantation. You really do. Now, how the fire started, that is more mysterious, in my opinion, than that the kids died in the fire. And so I honestly don't have an answer for that. I don't, because I just don't have enough information. And I have issues about how the fire moved through the house and the behaviors of the people in the house. So I don't know, but they weren't kidnapped. That's all I can say. They weren't kidnapped. That's just nonsense. They died in the fire. Yeah. Yeah. One maybe, but not a whole bunch of them. I mean, Oh, that's very nice, Christoph. Pat, that's why we're on your channel. Oh, at least I got intelligent people on my channel. And I appreciate that. I found it I found it very fascinating, mostly because I couldn't believe the conspiracy theories and the logic with the kids going missing. I found that more fascinating than anything else. But do I wish I know what happened, how the fire started? Yes, but it could have been literally that simple, that was electrical fire that went through. Again, depending on how the house is built, it's possible that there were gaps in certain things, so it could have gone up to the roof. I don't know. From the time she was awake and she smelled, so 30 minutes could have happened where the fire went up and then eventually collapsed the house. I just don't know. You could have a brother who just was embarrassed to admit that he didn't do what he should have done. I mean, it could have been arson by the brother. It could have been arson by an outsider. I don't know. And I can't speculate very well. I can only tell you the possibilities and say we can leave it at that, unless somebody invites me to Fayetteville and I can see all the police reports. That's not that far away. I could drive that in half a day. I would drive to Fayetteville for no money And I would re-examine all of those police reports if they really truly exist these days. I would find that really interesting. I mean, that would be a nice trip. I'd do that. I really would. So, Clarissa says, after listening to that lady last night, I was confused. You helped me through this to understand she had my head spinning like the exorcist. Yeah, I mean, I was the same way. I'm like, she kept saying, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to tell you, I have a theory. And she kept going like that. I'm like, and then she gets there. I'm like, what? it was pretty funny. So anyway, oh my God. It's 3 hours. It was a long 3 hours. I mean, if it had been down to an hour, the most, I did get some nice photos. I got to see some actual articles from the newspaper, which I really appreciated. So she supposedly has this huge folder. I'd love to see the huge folder. So, hey, you ever want an actual profiler to analyze what happened to your ancestors? Yeah, I'd come out to Fayetteville and look over everything. But I think you missed your mark as a profiler. I just do. I think you're a very attractive woman. You speak well. Maybe there's another career out there for you. For sure. Anyway, that's going to be it. So that's it for today. I'm glad you were here. Again, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Click on Patreon if you'd like to join. And I'm off tomorrow with my son. We're going to leaf peeping. We're driving up to Vermont from Maryland. We're going from Maryland to Vermont. We're going to Vermont, New Hampshire, and then we're going to go to Boston for 2 days. So we're spending the whole week up north to see the beautiful leaves and hopefully not too much rain. So we have an exciting trip. We're going to say all the leaves, and we're going to the mountains and everything. And then we're going to go to Salem and go do a Salem witch tour thing, which is supposed to be the historic version. So not the stupid version, but the historic version. And then we're going to go to Boston. We're going to spend an entire day going around Boston, seeing all the different areas. We're going to go to, of course, where the baseball stadium is. And then we're going to see Hamilton at night at the Boston Opera House, which is gorgeous. So that's our plan. And then my son wants to go to Concord. We swear they have Concord, wait a minute. New Hampshire. It's in Connecticut. Concord? Hartford. Wherever I'm at. I forgot where I'm at now. But he wants to go through there. They're supposed to have some awesome pizza, which I'm like, if it rivals New York City, I don't know. But anyway, we're going to have a good time. Hopefully not rain too much. So I'm leaving at 7 a.m. to go do that. There will be no hangout this week. This is the first time in 4.5 years, no hangout. But yeah, we're going to be busy, and I'm going to take the week off. I don't think I've done that in so long, so I'm excited about that. So thank you very much. Good peeping. Yeah, hopefully it'll be pretty. I hope it'll be nice. A lot of driving, yeah. Hopefully it'll be cool. And my cat, in case you're worried, I'm a feral cat. Feral cat will have a week's worth of food, and he will probably be happy that he doesn't have to deal with me. So he'll just come in and eat and leave. Like, I don't care. She's not here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. I've traveled 3 times with my son. We traveled to India together. We've traveled from Miami to the Keys together. We also did a West Coast tour from San Jose, California, through Napa up through Oregon and Washington. And so we've done this. This will be our 4th trip together. And he's a good companion. So, and he's willing to have his mother with him. So what can I say? That's pretty cool. So anyway, I will see you guys. So there'll be no hangout this week. But I will see you guys next weekend, Saturday. Sorry. Actually, I might see you on Saturday because my daughter we have a family day on Sunday with my daughter. So I may not be able to do it on Sunday. So I think I'm going to do a Saturday night video. It's going to be on an Australia or New Zealand case because they'll be awake. So I'm going to do it Saturday night. So if you're from Australia or New Zealand, send me, if you're in the chat room, if you're not going to see, if you're not in the chat room, you won't see this till next week anyway, but send me along your favorite Australian, New Zealand case, because I'm going to do it on Saturday night. So that's, maple syrup. Yeah, I'm going to buy some maple syrup for sure. Absolutely. So good night, everyone. Thank you for being here. I got to go pack now. And interesting case. But yeah, I'll come to Fayetteville. I will. because it's not that far. It's like 5 hours from my house. I would drive there and check it out. But sometimes you just don't get the offer. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you for being here, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.